We're in order.
Hello. Now's the time for the Planning Commission. Could you call the roll, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner McCarty.
Here.
Commissioner Natalie Smith is absent. Commissioner Malachi.
Here.
Commissioner Wentz.
Here.
Commissioner Poole.
Here.
Chairperson Roulette.
Here. Shall we salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So tonight, we're going to have some training in GIS, and then we'll move on to the consent agenda. And we have 2 public hearings, correct? And that'll start at 6:30. So, let's do the oath of office for Patrick Smith.
Okay. All right, Patrick. Do you want to go by Patrick or Pat?
Either's fine. I probably prefer Pat.
Okay. So if you could raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Pat Smith,
I, Pat Smith,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the State of
and
Oregon
of the State of Oregon
and the Charter and Municipal Code
and the Charter and Municipal Code
of the City of Gladstone,
of the City of Gladstone,
and that I will do,
to
to the best of my ability,
the best of my ability,
perform the duties of Planning Commissioner
perform the duties of Planning Commissioner
for the City of Gladstone, Oregon,
for the City of Gladstone, Oregon,
during my entire term of office,
during the entire term of office,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You want to sign here, up here.
And it's okay if the baby's crying in here too. It's part of. We like babies crying.
We won't count it as an objection.
If we cry, it's cool too, right?
They did away with all the cry rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah. I thought it was music.
Copy for me at your convenience.
Yeah, I was going to ask council to explain what being sworn as opposed to other things.
Okay.
At some point we'll have that.
Are we ready? All right, I am. Well, good evening. As many of you may or may not know, we now have a GIS system. We contracted with the City of Oregon City back in, I want to say August or something, and we put together our first GIS system for the City of Gladstone. It is housed over in Oregon City, so we have to log into their site, and there's, you get into the Gladstone GIS. So what I'm going to do, even though it's up right now, I'm going to close that out, and I'm going to open up a new. This is how you would get to us. So you'd go to the City of Gladstone website. So you don't have to remember the long address to get there. So here we're on the City of Gladstone website. Go into departments. Go down to Public Works. I know that's kind of hard to see, so I'll try to mention what I'm clicking on and stuff. So you go to Public Works, click on it, and then you bring up Public Works page. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see City of Gladstone GIS view. So go ahead and click on that, and it'll take you there. So you don't have to remember the website. And like I say, it's coming from their site, so it takes a little bit to load sometimes. If the, you know, if the system is being overloaded, it may take a little bit longer. So this is what pops up. Kind of shows the city of Gladstone boundaries. Shows some of the park space and stuff like that. What we have tabs across the top. You got project, query map, find features, measure, draw, report, print, and tools. I'm not going to hit all this stuff this evening because it'll get a little bit, you'll start going numb in a little bit. But there's some cool stuff that I think you guys will find that you'll use, and I'll hit that. And what I would like to do is come back once in a while and maybe show some more once you guys have played with it a little bit. So we'll kind of dive into the basics this evening until I start seeing people fall asleep, and then maybe we have to just stop at that point. But so over here on the left are these little boxes. I don't know the technical names, but basically you can turn them on or off. For example, this first one is city limits. If I turn that off, you can see your city limits go away. Also, if there's a plus next to that, there are other options as long as that box is checked. Here, there's just the one option. Address text. Some of these you won't see until you scroll in. For example, we'll just start scrolling in here so you can see this address text comes up now. So you can actually see the address and you can turn that off.
Can I pause you for a second?
Yes.
If you guys are having a hard time seeing, why don't you take a chair and sit up close?
Good idea. I'm going to, if that's okay.
Yeah, it is difficult to see on that screen up there.
I have a real quick question too. On the Oregon City one, I've used that before, and they have like the zoning.
We have that too.
That's an overlay.
Yep, that's why I'm gonna get you some of the basics, and then we're gonna get into things I think you guys would be interested in, like land use, zoning, stuff like that. Yeah. So now that I zoomed in, you can see right in here. I'll try to move my mouse a little slower so you can see it up there. But there's an address there. So if I go up and click this address text off, you can see those go away. Where some of this is handy is if you're trying to do map and it gets a little cluttered, you can turn things on and off. So those are some of our defaults. Also to the right of almost every one of these options is this little slide bar. Now if you look at those addresses, if you slide this over, you'll see them fade out. So you can actually adjust how intense they are. And where that is nice is when we get into the ortho photos and stuff where you can kind of fade it out and you can see more of the utilities and stuff, and I'll kind of show you that later on. But
does that apply when you're printing as well?
Yes. Yep, it carries over, yeah. So pretty handy. Address points, all that does is put a dot on the thing. See a little dot that comes up? Well, you really can't. Sorry about that. But if you turn that on, you can see little dots come up. Let me scroll out and you'll really probably see those dots. There you go. There's dots. Those are address points, and you can turn those off so you're not cluttering up. Some of this stuff is Oregon City this is what they did, so they did it for us. So we actually got a lot for what we paid for, because it was just a push. Right. We built it for ours, they pushed it over to us, so we got quite a bit of benefit. Some of the stuff I don't know why they have it on there, like turn the dots on and off, but it's there. So street names, this is kind of nice if let me zoom in here really quick. You can turn the street names, it makes them larger. So I'll just click that so you can see. It makes it really, brings them up as soon as it loads. Well, you really can't see up there, but it just makes them so they stand out more if you want. You can go, when you go into this, you can't hurt it. You can go in here and click on anything, do anything you want, you can't hurt it. Worst case is you just get out and go back in and you start fresh, because you're not changing anything in their site, so feel safe to go in there and just try stuff and play around. I'm going to skip some of these things. This thing you might be interested in, streams here. You turn on the streams, it'll bring up some streams in town, which the only one I recall is down here on Ryan Nearson, so we'll just kind of move the map over. And you can see the stream start right here. I think that's about the only one we have in town.
There's one in Jersey, I know, because it comes out in my backyard.
Well, if they grab a lot of this information from the county's data, so if it's not considered a stream as far as the county is concerned, it probably won't show up on here as a stream.
Runs you
Yeah.
around.
Okay, well, it's probably not classified
Well,
as a
I've tried to
stream.
find out the name of the thing, but nobody seems to know. I've heard several things, but it goes right underneath the parking lot of the senior center, and it comes out in the backyard of the property I own there, and it goes up about a couple blocks maybe, and then goes underneath the highway and empties into the Willamette, I guess.
Right. At that point, it's probably considered storm drainage, as far as the county is concerned. I don't know the answer to that
Somebody told me
specifically,
there was
but...
salmon in there at some
We'll
point.
fill it in and then we'll find out.
Well, they've had booms and stuff out there when they spilled stuff in it. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I
No
got off
worries.
track.
So this next option down here are your contours. We have 2-foot contours or 10-foot contours.
Good.
So, when you get up into the higher part of town, and I should have showed you this, but if you want to move around the map, it's a lot like Google. You can just drag your mouse over, click, and drag the map over. And that's how you kind of get around in the map. So you can click and drag. So I'm dragging over here because I know there's some hills. I'm going to turn the 2-foot contours on, and hopefully that'll come up there. It'll get pretty busy because we're zoomed out. Let's get this to come up. So there you go. You can see your contours. So like here, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Yeah, right there is 220 feet.
Zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, I'll zoom in.
Close to the screen where you were.
Right, exactly. Let me zoom in a little farther. So you can see the darker lines. Those are your 10-foot intervals, and then there's the 2-foot in between. So you got 210 up to 220, and then of course 2-foot increments in between. This is real helpful for public works when we're estimating water pressures and stuff. It really, because every foot of elevation is 0.433 pounds, right? So it helps us be able to determine water pressures and stuff.
I mean, I imagine that probably comes in really handy, like when they're looking at leveling the lot with all those
Mm-hmm.
trees.
Right. Yep. So there's that, and again, you can, for printing purposes, if it gets too busy, you can fade it in and out, so you can make it so it's just kind of in the background. I think that's a real cool tool. I've used it a lot when printing stuff off, because sometimes it will get really busy. And there's a plus there. Let's see what else we have. So here, you'll see a little drop-down menu right here, and if you click on that, it'll give you options, or at least tell you what the different colors are. Especially when you get into your zoning and stuff, you'll have all the different colors, so if you click on that in the zoning, it'll tell you what the orange is, it'll tell you what the green is, or whatever colors they have. So here it's telling you the darker lines are 10 foot, the lighter lines are the 2-foot intervals.
That's like a legend box?
Yes, basically a drop-down legend box. That's a real good way to describe that. So we can turn that off. What's our next? A 10-foot. Okay, building outlines. I'm going to move the map over so we can get into some buildings. All that really does is it'll outline these shaded areas. You can see there's already buildings there coming up, but now if you click on the building outlines, it'll just draw the buildings in. I like just the shaded. It's not so busy myself. But again, you can fade that in and out to make it, you can customize it to whatever looks good when you print. You play on this on your computer, it's a lot better than what you're seeing up there. That's not giving you the real... Every time I look up there, I'm feeling kind of sorry you guys have to look at that. It's not as good.
How current is the information on there?
It's as current as often as we send them updates.
Well,
As far as city stuff, now they update all the time from county records.
and Metro
Metro and like those streams, that type of stuff, they're updating as often as they get the information from the state, the county, or whatever.
Like
So
when they're building in the area, how long does it take for that to get on the...
when they're building where?
They're adding residences or whatever they're doing, or if there's some change in excavation. How often does that get on there?
Well, typically, once someone does a plot, I don't know exactly how fast the county gets it in, and then there's a delay from when Oregon City gets it. So there will probably be some delay on
Well, I
some
understand
things.
with the Planning Commission, you know, some of that information's pertinent, and
Right.
I was just curious how soon we could see it.
I don't know the answer to that yet, because we haven't even had this thing up and going for, 4 or 5 months. So,
My
yeah.
experience, just for what it's worth, what I found is that sometimes you didn't really have an address yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of
And,
some of the stuff.
yeah, and when you don't have an address and it's a site and it's in, especially if they're building a spec house.
Right.
And then there's a bunch of lots there, well, what's your address? Well, I
Right.
don't have one.
Right. Yep. And so we're paying for updates for that type of stuff, but it's as often as they can get it to you, and I don't know the exact detail of that, because it's not like daily, it's gonna be quarterly or something like that, probably.
Start excavating and build a house there. They have a footprint for it. I assume that would get there within like a month.
Right.
So-
No, it's hard to say, like the...
Can we move over to the spot right
Remember
next to
when they
Walgreens? Let's just see where it says it's at right now.
Okay, yeah, let's just
Yeah.
drag ourselves over there. Yeah, see, it's not up there yet. There's nothing there.
So there's no pad, no nothing. listed.
Nothing, right.
What about the new apartments up by,
On Webster.
I doubt that's up there as well. Let's see here. Yeah, see, there's nothing there yet. Still got the old house.
Yeah. So it'll take a while.
Yeah. So building outlines, tax lots, well, that'll take the lines off, see, so now you can't even see the property lines. So that comes on default, so that shows you all the property lines. And of course, then you have city utilities. So you can click on the water, sewer, storm. So I'll click on water. You get everything up there and it gets a little busy until you zoom in.
I mean, one that comes up for us a lot is the fire hydrants.
There they are. They stand out in red. Well, let me zoom in so you can see. See the red? So now you'll see all the fire hydrants. You'll see the water lines, their size. The one thing we did is we copied what Oregon City did for critical facilities. We don't put everything out there for everybody to see. So, for example, valves. Because with someone having valves, they could go out there and damage your system. So there's some personal information, there's some other stuff, and basically we're just, until we hear different ideas from the community, every city is different. We're just following what Oregon City's doing. So whatever you guys are doing, we're trying to make it easy. So we'll just restrict the same thing that you guys are restricting. Some cities throw it all out there. Some do not.
I
So
don't see any reason we would need the valves for.
yeah, well, exactly. So you won't see valves, but we have the ability to log in and put the valves on there for staff purposes at this point. All of our city utilities, water, sewer, and storm, they're not gospel. This is what we had on paper, this is what we got in here, and over time it's going to become very accurate, but as we're out locating facilities for construction, or we notice something wrong, we're going to do a map update, and we'll get it over to them probably quarterly to update our system. And that takes years. I did this over at Westland, and it took about 10 years to get the system where it's pretty darn good. But it literally, you have to be out there and for locating purposes, well, it's not locating like that, and then you figure it out and you correct it at that point. Otherwise, you just have to go out there and you'd probably spend a year or so solid. So we're just going to just do it as time allows, and we're going to get this stuff better and better. So if you look in here, just know that there's a possibility it's wrong.
One thing that would be helpful for us is that if there are areas in the water or sewer that you have flagged as concerns that, like, you cannot add more housing without upgrading the path,
Right.
put those flags on there, because then we know when we're looking at it, this is going to be a concern for us.
Right. And that's where the staff reviews the stuff, and it would come to you as a flag at that point. To sit there and add another layer in this would be pretty costly, and then to keep it updated. So now we're keeping our master plan updated and this. So, how much time and energy do we put into this? I mean, this thing, you could employ a person and a half keeping this thing just up, and up, but stuff like that would be great, but, that'd be a challenge to keep that updated, because things will change, and then you'll have to go in there and change that, and for the little bit of development we got going on. Yeah.
You have a master plan that has everything on it.
Well, we have a master plan that says where some deficiencies are, absolutely, yeah. And it's online, as a matter of fact. It's just not as easy to look at as this.
And you're not as likely to be referring to it for every one of these.
Right, right. So when staff reviews a subdivision coming in or something, we look at all the city infrastructure for deficiencies and make sure that, for example, you know, the one that came in late last year, the one up there off Glen Echo, we required them to loop the water line through. You know, that was a staff thing. No, you need to loop that through, because you can't do that. Same thing with the one up there off Columbia. We required them to loop that water line through, and they didn't like it, but sorry, you need to do that because that's deficient already. So staff's looking at that pretty good now. Okay, so I'll turn all the utilities on so you can kind of see how busy it can get with everything on there. So your orange is your sewer, and the green is storm. Now you can go into these and turn things off. For example, go into your water one and look at all these things you can turn on and off. You can turn the hydrants off. I don't want the hydrants on there, so you just click them off and they go away. We have some North Clackamas County Water Commission pipes in here, Oak Lodge water pipes.
So we could use that, for example, to determine whether a pipe is Oak Lodge or us?
Right, right. Yeah, for example, let me just go up to the reservoir up here where I know Oak Lodge has water, so you can see what it looks like. So here we are, all that light blue. See down here the light blue, well, again, and I know this is hard to see, but the light blue is Oak Lodge Water District, and you can see that, especially when you get out into Valley View there. I'll zoom in so maybe it'll show up a little bit better here. Is that any better? You can kind of see our dark blue, their light blue.
So we both have it on that street?
Exactly. So yeah, but again, the accuracy, our line may actually be on the other side of theirs. I mean, there's just this accuracy thing that we're still going to be working on. I'm pretty sure this is pretty good there, but I wouldn't go out there and
start digging.
Just design something around this until we verify that. And then again, you can fade things in and out, which is really, really cool. Your sewer system, you got all these layers as well. So we got Clackamas County Service District 1, Oak Lodge, Tri-City, and then you got private sewer pipes, sewer laterals. There's just all kinds of stuff you can turn on and off and look at. Same with storm. You can turn off the catch basins and the manholes. I mean, it's almost, there's a lot of stuff in here, I don't know, you guys would get into so much. When we get into the utilities, Public Works uses this a lot. But for you guys, it just know it's there, go in there and click on stuff, and it's all open for everybody to look at. But I just at least want to show you that it exists. We're going to get to the good stuff for you guys here real soon. Land use and planning. Let me shut all these utilities off. So land use and planning, I'm going to zoom out so you can kind of see a little bit better the whole city when we turn this layer on. So land use and planning, I'll click that up. And one of the default things that are going to come up on this one right away is the urban reserve, or not the urban reserve, excuse me, urban renewal. Yes. And then I'll click this drop down and you can turn that off. You can see here that it's clicked and it's yellow. So there's your urban renewal right there throughout the whole town. Reserves, you click the reserves on. You can see how that popped up, the green. Let me turn it off again so you can kind of see the difference. Most of it's outside of the city over there up the Clackamas River. And then there's a legend for that, so you can see rural reserves and urban reserves. So it doesn't look like there's any reserves in town to worry about. And concept corridors. So there's a concept corridor that's evidently out there in Metro or something.
That's TriMet.
Is it TriMet?
High capacity
Okay.
corridor.
Okay. Vacant lands. So you can see there's quite a bit of vacant land, even within the town. All these light green areas, those are vacant land, no buildings on them. So you can see potential development going to happen there. And I'll turn off this urban renewal because it might be covering up some of that vacant land. Let me just turn that off. Nope, it wasn't. You really got to kind of pay attention to some of your colors they're like layers, and some of them will cover up some stuff. So there's your vacant lands. You can get into multi-housing, so you can click and it's like, where's all of our multi-housing? Boom, there it is. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it's the light blue. Those are all of your multi-housing within the city of Gladstone. There's a drop down here. So now they even have them color coded. Your pink is your accessory dwelling unit, yellow is apartments, green is condos. So you can go, this is where one of those legends really are handy. Even have the manufactured homes. So that's kind of a nice little feature to have. Turn that off. Analysis center. I don't know what that. Is this for the downtown revitalization maybe?
Okay, that's
Because we're analyzing that. That looks like that's where that would be, right? The purple.
Well, you're finding hidden jewels because I didn't know about the concept corridor.
Right.
I'm sure Councilor Sickman didn't either.
Well, I haven't been poking around in the land use a whole lot, so I'm kind of clicking on these, learning stuff myself because I really hone in big on the utilities. So this is actually, that's pretty cool. Comp plan. Let's see what those colors mean. You guys might know what this is. AF-10, AF-20. Comp plan, does that?
I think that gets back to, well, no, that wouldn't fit our zoning, so we have a different layer.
There's a different, yeah. Yep.
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
What comprehensive plan would that be?
Have one.
Unless it's going to show the old stuff, the original 20 acres and old stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Turn off that analysis center. Then your zoning's right here, so now you'll bring up your zoning. Let me turn off this urban renewal so it's not so, there we go. So then you do this drop down. Let me scroll it up so you can see all of them. I'm going to zoom out a little bit too so you can see more of the whole town and the county and everything else.
So that's interesting that it turned off the city limit layer.
Well, I think if we zoom in, it'll come back on. Or no, but it's buried under here. You can see it out here, and then it must, this zoning layer must cover that up.
We did tell them before we wanted it to be the topmost layer at all times.
Okay.
So you might want to mention that to them.
There you go. So if you want to see, oh, I'm sorry.
Does it make a difference which order you put the layers in?
No, they're all pre-stacked. It's just you're turning them on and they're coming in. So
Yeah, we could probably fade it to make it obvious, but
Hey,
we did ask him to put that one at top at all times.
right.
So
Can we fade this one? I'm not seeing the little fade option here. Let me see
probably
if I
the
can
zoning level. No.
see if I can move this thing over. Nope, I'm not seeing.
Maybe you have to collapse it.
No, okay, turn that off, and then your city limits comes back on.
I don't know. Just mention it to him.
Might be a question,
Right.
yeah, definitely to ask. But so there's your zoning, and here's all your, you got rural, central, industrial, office, commercial, all the different zoning classifications we have. Looks like the most of it is, where's the yellow? Let's go down. Yeah, it looks like down here in the single family. Boy, some of these colors might be hard to tell the difference.
They look the same.
Yeah. But I'm going to show you another way to find out lot specific how to tell what zone it's in. But to look at a map overall, there's your zones. There's a lot of different zoning, goodness. So you can turn that back off. Okay, I'm gonna minimize this. Sorry if I'm clicking around too fast. So we'll turn off the land use and zoning. So community, what that's gonna do, nothing's gonna come up right away on this until you do the plus over here, and then you can kind of see it. Well, do you want to know where City Hall is? Boom, City Hall pops up right over here. Probably not something that we all really need. Fire station, schools, libraries. I think the schools might actually do zones too. School districts down below, excuse me. So you can turn on school districts and it'll actually zone the city. You can see the green and the blue. It's for a different school zone. So if you want to know, I don't know if you guys would need to know that, but if you did, you would know where the dividing line is between school districts. Voter precincts. So then there's different voter precincts. And then of course there's a drop down and it's a lot of them. There's just a ton of stuff in here. Neighborhood associations, I don't know that we have a lot in Gladstone. Different ones, so it doesn't really appear to change the color of those a lot. The whole town's green. Outdoor recreation, so you can tell where cemeteries, I'll turn that on. Cemeteries, golf courses, homeowners, school lands, and other. So you can see the golf course down here in the bottom. So let's see, where are we at? That's under community. I'll turn that off. Go down, what's next here? Water and natural resources. This is kind of cool. So you got your Title 13 inventory or Title 3. So I'm going to kind of move over to the rivers because that's where a lot of this stuff's going to come up. So Title 13, you'll see it brings up the boundaries of that. Turn that off. Some of these you don't want to have two of them on at the same time because it'll be hard to see. There's your Title 3. Which I'm not 100% what that means, but it's tree canopy. You can kind of see where the tree canopy is. This is something they did with LiDAR or something, if I remember right, when Chris was talking about it. So you can kind of see where your heavy tree canopies are around town. Vegetation cover, soil perk test, high water table. There's just a lot of stuff in here. What are we doing on time? I got about 10 minutes, so I want to buzz through this. I got some other stuff I want to show you.
Flood zones on there?
Yep, here's your flood. That's the very next one. So let's turn the floods on. So you got your 96 flood. If you want to know specifically what the water went in 96, there it is.
Yeah, I see my sister's house in West Lynn there.
Okay.
Underwater, eh?
Only the lower.
You got the 2008 flood. I didn't really know there was a flood, but this one comes up a little different. There's these lines going across here, and it says 47 feet. You may not be able to see it there. But there's lines, like up here it says 48 feet up by the 99E bridge. So that must have been how high the water got in 2008. 2008 floodway. And it goes on down to, what else do we got? We got scarps around town. So landslides, you can kind of see there's one down here by the Doll Beach.
Do we have our sewer overflow on there?
Sewer overflow, it's on our sewer layer. It'll show the facilities for sewer. Yep.
I just meant the overflow we get when it rains. Do we have that on here somewhere?
It's part of our sewer system. Okay. Yeah. So slopes greater than 25%, that might be handy for you guys to look at in certain situations. So there's not a lot of those in town. I think let's go up here and see if we got some of those slopes up here. Yeah, so this, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there's some pink areas there. So there's some slopes that are over 25%. That could be handy. Want to know how steep the terrain is. Shade relief, what else do we got? Aerial photos are really nice. So we got 2015, we have 2014. And I don't know what this CIR 2015, but you turn the orthophotos on and there, it's kind of a lot like Google. You know, you can zoom in, but these are actually not satellite imagery. These are, all the cities kind of go together and they pay for flyovers. So they'll fly, and so this is a little more accurate than satellite imagery. So what I want to do is, means we're getting down pretty close, I wanted to show you another way. If you get a property specific that you want to look at, and let's go over here to Public Works, for example. If you want to know about a particular property, just click on it. You'll see that it comes up, highlights it. Most of the time there will be an image here, but for whatever reason they didn't want to take a picture of Public Works, probably because it's such a sexy thing. But you come down here to additional information, and that's where you're going to find out the zoning, the size of the lot, who owns it, and all this stuff. So over here in the details you can see, and this is all, you know, just a link to the county's database is really what it is. Right. Let's scroll down all the information. You can see that City of Gladstone owns this, where the owner lives here at City Hall. Some of this stuff I don't even know what it is. Land value, building value, total value. Acres, you know, it's 1.95 acres. We've got year built. Some of this stuff, if they don't have the data, it's just not in there.
Have the sewer on it.
What's that?
Doesn't it have the sewer on it, whether it's Oak Lodge or who it is?
Not here, I don't think. Here somewhere it'll talk about the zoning and stuff, one of these lines. There's just a lot of information here. I probably already passed the zoning, but it'll tell you specifically what zoning you're in.
Actually, can you scroll all the way to the bottom?
All the way to the bottom?
There was one row that they added for us, right? The in-city?
In-city, yes. Right here, second one from the bottom. It's a Y. Can you see that? It's right there where the mouse is. Sorry, that's...
I think the reason for that, Malachi, if I remember correctly, is because there are certain addresses that we're not sure if they're in Gladstone or not. So that is very helpful for you as a commission. And the
one right below that is in urban renewal district, and this says N for no. One of these is a zoning. Let's see where it's at. But it'll tell you what the zoning is. Land use, right there, industrial. So if you want to know specifically about a property, what zone it's in and stuff like that, just click on the property. I'll use another one as an example. To get rid of this here, this whole thing on the left, just hit the little X and it'll go away. So we'll just pick another random property. How about this one right there? See, there's your street view. And if you want to actually go to Google Street View, you don't have to go to Google Maps. There's a button there. It'll just take you right to it. Boom, it takes you right to, then you're in Google. So there's no going to Google and having to do another search. Or it'll do Bing Maps as well. So there's this property. View additional details, so it does the same thing that we did on the other one. All the information, the owners, all that. What I also wanted to show you is, click on that again. There's another button over here called Run a Report. So this will actually make a nice printed report. So I'm going to click on that so you can see what it would actually look like. And it'd be something you'd print and it has pictures and stuff.
So Ashley, is that considered a site visit?
I was actually just thinking about that. So, I mean, if we're looking at an application and you went on and, you know, looked at this material and it's not included in, I would mention it as an ex parte contact.
So you click over here on the view report, it's generating the report. Download the report. So this is what that report would look like if you followed it through. It's on a printable 8.5 by 11, and it kind of has all that same information you're looking at. Here's a map of it zoomed way out. Here's a map zoomed in. Oh, okay. and then all the other information that was in that list on the other side, but just in a more eye-friendly version.
Hey, Jim,
Yes.
I picked up my phone. I pretended I've never been here in my life. I searched for Gladstone Public Works. I clicked on it, and there it was. So very magical.
Yep. They do have, when you go in, it knows if you are on a cell phone, and it actually works on a
formatted
cell phone. That's all
perfectly.
this computer magic stuff. It's a little above me, but
Yeah, but no,
Yep.
given what I started with 15, 18 years ago with the blue lithograph maps,
Right.
it's pretty cool.
Right. So that was a lot of information. There's more there. There's drawing. There's measuring tools. There's all kinds of stuff that I'd be excited to come back and maybe next time you guys play around a little bit and we can get into some of the measuring tools and drawing. And I mean, we could probably do this the rest of the year, and there's just new stuff in there. But like I say, you can't hurt it. Get in there, play around with it, and mess with it, and hopefully maybe when I come back, you guys will have some questions, and I'll try to help you out. So. Yep.
I think for the next one of the things we'll put on the list is showing things like, 200 feet from this address.
Right, yeah, and you can measure, and I'll do a real quickie here because it is kind of a cool. So up here on these buttons up here, you just click on your measure button, and right here, it's on line, it defaults to line. So if I want to measure, for example, Public Works, I want to know the distance between these two buildings, I can click it once, oops, excuse me, I gotta close that. Okay, so now we're on the measure line. So I want to know the distance between these two buildings. I just click once, drag the line over, and there will be a measurement come up. It's about 89.59 feet. And we, for example, I'll clear that really quick. I want to show you, our building here is 100 feet long, or 50 feet wide. And so just to show you how accurate it is, I'll come across this building 52 feet. I mean, it is pretty accurate.
Nice.
So, any burning questions?
Printing, pretty easy.
Yeah, there's a print option up above. So you click on the print, you click print, and you just follow it through. There's some stuff you can do there, picking what paper size and all that, and that'll be maybe for a future one. But like I say, you can't hurt it. Get in there and you see a button, click on it, see what it does.
You zoom in and you hit print, and it prints what you zoomed instead of...
Well, what it'll do is it'll actually put this box on the screen, and you can move that box around, and what's in that box is what's printing. So it's kind of...
Yeah, I got you.
It's pretty intuitive, really. You just
Good.
get in there and click around, and come up with some questions, and we'll see if we can get them answered, and we can tweak this to make it work better, like what we did with the are you in the city or out of the city and stuff like that.
We really appreciate your time
Yes.
bringing that to our attention. It was a good presentation, and thank you.
Thanks for coming back.
Yeah. No, Public Works is using it. It's pretty exciting. We're using it a lot, saving us a lot of time and energy out there in the field. So the guys can take a tablet out and do locates and not have to carry maps over the hood of the truck when it's raining and trying to figure out where stuff's at and stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's really
Great.
nice.
More flexible.
Thanks, Jim.
You bet.
Does anybody need a break?
Just got 2 minutes.
All right.
Hello. Is Kim wanting to say something?
Before we go to the consent agenda, I think Kim Sickman wants to speak. Kim, you're up.
I'm up.
Yeah, we're just gonna do, I haven't
Time's
heard
up.
back from Eric and Jesse officially, but I recommend it will be
Good evening, Commission. I'm Kim Sickman. For those of you that I think I know all of you, I'm the City Council liaison to the Planning Commission. I just wanted to take this opportunity to welcome all of you and to thank you for your service. I know some of you are new. I know some of you have stepped up to different positions, and from the council, we appreciate all of that. My duty as a liaison to this board, or to this commission, is a little different than most. You'll notice as soon as I'm done, when you guys start your meeting, I'm out the door. And it's not because I don't care, it's not because I'm not interested. We have an attorney over there that would escort me out if I didn't.
True.
There's an issue with any decisions you guys make could be appealable, and if it's appealed, it would go to city council. And that would give me the ex parte issue that you guys deal with when you talk and hear other things that aren't in your meeting. And so it just kind of keeps it a lot cleaner if the only thing I know if I have to look at an appeal, or there's other things that come before you that you make a recommendation to council that I would then be deciding on. And so it just makes it a lot cleaner if I haven't sat and heard all of the things. When your recommendation comes forward or an appeal comes forward, your minutes are all included. And I think you've been working on getting your minutes a little bit more concise to make sure everything's addressed, so we do have all of the information when it comes to us. I do want to take and let you know that I left a card up there for all of you. If you don't have one, let me know. If you have questions, if it's pertaining to an application, I'm sorry, I can't help you. That would once again get me in trouble with our legal team. But if you're talking process, procedures, that sort of thing, shoot me an email. My personal cell phone's on the card. Providing I'm not in some other meeting or something, I always try and take my calls. The only other thing is I know that you guys have gotten some recent education on the legal side of your job. If you guys are interested, I spent 13 years sitting up there in those chairs. Some of them with Randy way back when.
Yeah.
There's some things that I could maybe help you with as far as your processes and what you're doing. If any of you are interested, you're basically the judge on a lot of these applications, and it's your interpretation of what's written in our codes. And Clay, I think, will attest that it's okay that sometimes we disagree with staff's interpretation. Him and I have had several discussions on it. Some of them he was right. Well, all of them he was right, okay? But, you know, it is an interpretation of what is written. I recommend that, you know, your packets before you, if they covered absolutely everything, would be this thick. So if you're reading through something and it just doesn't quite get it, or you're going, I don't see how that works, I don't know if you have code books or if you're doing things on going to the web page and looking it up, go in there and look. And then you can look and say, okay, now I can see how this applies, because there may be a paragraph before that or a paragraph after that that'll give you more information. You're not expected to know Gladstone chapter 17 verbatim. But one thing that I found is the more time I spent looking at applications and going in and looking at things, all of a sudden something would come up and you know what, I remember something about that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think I know where to go look. And that can help you as well. So reach out to me if there's anything I can do. Is there any questions, anything I can do for you guys now? Great.
Good.
Thank you for you guys' time. I appreciate it. The council appreciates it, and the whole city does. It's a tough job up there, I know. Been there. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Kim.
We ready for the consent agenda?
Yeah, so I do have 2 comments on the consent agenda, and I've already emailed them to Jackie, but I'm just going to mention them here. They're not changes so much as just comments on the transcription. First, on page 2, at least the one I read, it looks like the formatting got corrupted. After it mentioned 23rd, everything after that was superscripted. So you might want to make sure that that it was formatted correctly. We were supposed to have a copy here when we got here tonight, and there wasn't one up here to verify.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, at the end of regular agenda number 3, it says that Clay had mentioned that we should reorder the items. It does not indicate that we actually did. We probably should mention that,
Okay.
but that was it.
I have one additional change too. For some reason, the transcriber put approval of November 15, 2016 minutes, and that's incorrect. So, I will make that change. And you can approve them as amended, or I could bring them back next month and you can read them over and approve them at that time. It's your pleasure.
So what would you guys like to do?
Does anybody else have any other comments on them?
Comments? Anything needs to be pulled from the consent agenda, which I remember there was supposed to be a copy of that too. I've read the online one. I didn't see any formatting things on when I read it. But
Okay. So that may have just been mine when I was reading it then.
so,
I'm okay approving as amended.
all right. Let's call a roll to approve the minutes and consent agenda. Or
You can
just do a voice.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None?
All right, that's amended.
All right, so let's get to the regular agenda. Is there any reordering or anything that we want to do tonight?
The second one was removed.
The public hearing about the Clackamas Boulevard vacation's been removed. So, do we want to start with McDonald's?
Saying it's been removed, does that mean you're not going to talk about it tonight?
It's been removed. Could
Can you
somebody
clarify,
explain
Jackie?
about that, please?
Yeah. City Attorney Ashley Driscoll. So that is a matter that's not necessarily appropriate for the Planning Commission, and also we had an issue with getting 100% of the consent for the abutting property owners, since the city is a property owner. So we are in discussion about how to handle that, but we hope to stay on schedule, and perhaps it will be, but not confirmed, for the April 11th City Council.
I'm the realtor and I just want to know.
So we can speak after the meeting if that's okay. Yeah.
Can I ask you one question? So we live in Tired, and one of our properties is affected by this. So how are we gonna find out whether or not the discussion is gonna get postponed because it takes us a long time to get here with traffic? Inconvenient because it's gonna go an hour to get here. And we don't wanna have to, next month, not have the decision right out here again.
Clay Glasgow, planning staff. I am sorry truly that you had to drive across town this time of day just for this, but if you will leave me some contact information, I will simply let you know one way or the other within a few days of the meeting, or if I find out anything sooner. But I will let you know within a couple of days just to verify that we're having the meeting. But give me an address and phone number. Yeah.
In fact, if you want to, I can get that information from you guys.
Excuse me, are we ready to start on the first one?
Chair Rowlett, could you read through your spiel on the hearings process?
Yes. So the public hearing is now open for the purpose of considering item number Z0112-17-D. And the procedure we'd like to follow tonight is the Planning Department report, application testimony, proponent testimony, opponent testimony, applicant rebuttal, decision to continue or close the hearing, Planning Commission discussion and decision. Now, does any commission member wish to disqualify himself or herself for any personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight, or does any commission member wish to report any significant ex parte or pre-hearing contacts? Please indicate if you visited the site with connection to this application.
Dennis McCurdy. I did visit the site, and I did spend some time looking around as well.
I have visited the site previously.
Randy Roulette, I've visited the site previously.
Les Poole, I've also visited the site.
Libby went, and I visited the site too. I didn't specifically look for this, but I've been there.
Pat Smith, and I've also visited the site.
Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the right of any commission member to hear this matter? Is there any member of the audience who wishes to question the jurisdiction of this body to act on behalf of the City Council on this matter? Land use laws require that all issues be raised if the issues are to be appealed. Failure to raise the issues at this hearing may invalidate their further appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals, LUBA. Any party has a right to request continuance to this hearing or an alternative to have the record left open for 7 days. Failure to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the Commission to respond to the issue will preclude the action for damages in circuit court. If you're going to testify, please try to address the applicable criteria. Will the staff please present the report?
Okay, so this is for the McDonald's, the Gladstone McDonald's. You all know where it is. They're on 82nd Drive, Princeton, and Berkeley, over by Lattice Motors and the freeway, and you know what it is. And this proposal involves renovation, remodeling of that existing facility. There's no particular changes to the facility itself, no change to the footprint. It's still going to be a McDonald's. They're simply doing some work inside, and they're putting on some new corporate siding and signage along the outside. They are adding a drive-through lane. The applicant is here to present this, and in order to do that, they need to move the recycling and trash facility. It's in a C3 zone, general commercial. The use is allowed outright. Plan designation is commercial, compliant with the zone. Property is approximately 0.8 of an acre in size and developed as we all know it to be developed. Though I'm unsure exactly how, it would appear there's some kind of cross easements for access and parking with other businesses in that little clump. I'm a little bit hesitant to get into this, the design review standards, because they really are set up for a vacant lot, for a new proposal. This lot is not vacant, it's fully developed with a McDonald's. The changes compared to these criteria are relatively minor. However, let me just hit on a couple of them, because we are going to want to talk about building materials. In this case, there's going to be new siding, also signage. New sign. There's not going to be any change to the lighting. They are moving the recycling and trash facilities. We can talk about that. The site is properly parked. There's going to be a slight change to that, but it will still remain code compliant with parking. And there was one thing that I did want to mention. Oh, landscaping. It's adequately landscaped now. It will remain adequately landscaped. And I think with that, I'm going to close and let the applicant make a presentation, because I think this will make more sense once we actually look and see what's happening. I will note that I didn't receive any comments from any of the agencies that I sent notice to. I see Public Works is here, so if there's any questions from that standpoint, Mr. Wynock can answer those. But with that, I'm open for questions. How's that?
On your recommendation, item number 1, we want to add the before expiration. I did mention it to Eric as well. It's when we wanted to move forward with making that a more permanent.
Okay, and can you give me that wording again, Malachi, just so we get it consistent?
You have on there that we can grant an extension. We just want to make sure that it's granted before the expiration.
That's right.
I did mention to Eric that you wanted that to be a more permanent thing in our code. I'm not sure where he is in that process, but I asked him to contact you for that.
I've got a very long list, and this is on the list. I just couldn't quite remember the wording.
Yeah.
So we've got all sorts of little tweaks that we need and want to make,
yeah.
and this is one of them. Okay. Anything else in the staff report?
Okay, if there's no more questions at this point, is the applicant or is representative present?
Yes, here.
Do you wish to add anything to the staff report? Please give your full name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Brad Brown. I'm architectural designer with Fry & Ho Architects. My address is 10931 124th Avenue Northeast in Kirkland, Washington. And I mean, it's a pretty straightforward project, as Clay said. I think there's some projects, behind me, so I'll keep it brief. They're just McDonald's would just like to make some updates to the site. A lot of those are accessibility based, so a lot of those will be kind of replacing some of the sidewalk, making sure things are level, crosswalks, things of that nature. I think what's of kind of most interest to everyone here is kind of some of the exterior building changes. They're going to be re-siding it, with a kind of a fiber cement panel. I'm not sure if it's fiber cement or if it's wood right now. It's a little more expensive, but I think it'll be a nicer look for the building, and it's more durable. It'll last longer and hold up better in the weather. Doing some brand wall additions using this tile. I'm not sure if you guys had a color printout, but I wanted to bring a copy of this. In fact, let me pass this up there so you guys can take a better look at it.
Did you folks get colors?
No.
Because I gave a stack to Tammy and I didn't know if they got sent out.
We got some printouts, but, yeah, they're colored.
Oh, there is
Okay.
one at the
Okay.
back. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, so when the sample kind of makes its way around, you'll see that there's a wood texture that's kind of printed on it. That looks pretty good. I've seen some pretty bad ones, but McDonald's likes to use this product. They've been using it for years, and it holds up well, and it kind of has a handsome, attractive look to it. I have a little color sheet there. They'll be painting some grays and using some silvers and some metal accents on the building, and they're all kind of a warmer color because there's an existing brick wainscot on the building, and that brick's in pretty good condition, and so I'd like to keep it. If there's any bricks that are cracked or broken, we can replace those to match, but I think that brick wainscot kind of helps ground the building, and using some of those warmer colors too, I think coordinates with that brick well. So, and if you look at elevations, yeah, some of the metal accents that they use are kind of some corrugated metal up at the top, and there's a aluminum fascia band that wraps around, and those just kind of help break up the facade and add some kind of visual texture to the building. And of course there's typical canopies and awnings that are colored white, and those have downlighting for dark rainy days. So otherwise I think that's pretty much it. It's straightforward exterior remodel. If you guys have any questions.
Yeah, I had some questions about the new driveway specifically.
Yes.
On the narrow portion of the corner, what is the width of the 2 lanes?
The narrow portion at the corner, the width of the 2 lanes, that is, let's see, there's 12-inch wide aisles, there's an 11-inch wide island splitting them, and then another 12-inch wide drive-through lane. So those are going to be just shy of 36, so about 35 feet wide, total full width.
For both of them or for each of them?
That's total, both lanes and that center island.
So yeah, so not up there, but down on the corner itself. So you see there's like landscaping or something on the corner, and it makes that one look extremely narrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, what is the dimensions from the corner of the existing building to the diagonally across that, like 45-degree angle across that corner?
Okay, yeah, that's about 20 feet.
20 feet per lane or total?
Total.
That's
And
just a single lane, I think, isn't it, when you go out there?
That'll they kind of converge into a single
They're
lane.
converging there?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question, where you're coming into the 2, is the intention that coming around the back end would be limited to just the outside lane, or would they be able to go into either one?
For traffic flow, that's usually what's optimal, but McDonald's tries to, keep it wide enough to give an option, because depending on if one side is backed up or another, they don't like to kind of commit someone to one side or the other, so they could go to either, but yeah, if they wrap around that back side, going into that, lane on the, if you're looking at the site plan on the left, that would be ideal for traffic flow.
The reason I was asking you is because so currently all the traffic goes around the back side. And if they're going through the center of the parking lot, even 2 or 3 cars would block all of that traffic from being able to get in or out, right?
Yeah, if they all go to that first drive-through lane, yeah,
Well,
they would all block.
yeah, because it looks like that first one is the only way. I guess it's a little hard to tell. So are both lanes able to order?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
hmm Yeah, and that dark, maybe it's not clear, but that dark stripe that kind of runs vertically, that divides the two, that's just a painting stripe. There's no physical barrier between the two.
Okay.
You know, my question was very similar to his because I don't see any big issues with anything you're doing here, but my concern is traffic safety. You've got people that are coming out of the gas station. I know that's a neighboring property. And a lot of the traffic is going to come across the front there, and they're going to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's if we can get them to sweep around or go a little longer.
Yeah.
That's the goal. But in a real world, are we going to have a choke point there?
Yeah.
Because then people I'm thinking summer. It'll be here one of these days, and then when the front of the parking lot gets full, we start. It looks like there may be a little bit of a choke point there, and anything we can do to get them to maybe take the longer route, or just address that and because I do see that as being a little problematic, but that's my only real concern here.
Yeah, if that is a concern, you can see kind of at the entrance to the site and at the entrance to the drive-through lanes, they kind of have painting, right. That's on the pavement, kind of directing traffic. We can add, and we've done this on other projects in the past, so we can add those that direct them around, to avoid any backups or, pedestrian and traffic mixing, if that's on a busy summer day.
I think it would be better, because if we are, at the very least, are encouraging them to go around the back, they're less likely to block people from coming and going.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
How many cars can you stack up in there, do you think, compared to what it is now?
It's definitely more. That's usually why McDonald's likes to do these, is because with 2 lanes, you're splitting, something even like 4 or 5 cars, it doesn't sound that much, can back pretty far. So once you split those down, you just have 2 cars. But if we're looking right now, from the kind of the payment cash booth, at the building, you'd be able to stack up 1, 2, 3, 4 just within the new, kind of the new curbing, and then you'd be able to get a 5th one beyond, and then multiply that by 2 because you have a second lane. So you're looking at maybe 10 spots that you can adequately stack within this kind of new addition for the drive-through.
Well, that's the way the arrow points. Right, kind of. It looks like it's directing the traffic between the 2 parking spots on the backside of the new trash and the parking up by the building. Is that the intention, is to have people pulling through that way, or is that what you were addressing about you can make them go around? Because I kind of thought they were going to be queuing up around the new trash and then going to whichever one was more open, kind of like a... Is that what the intention was, or is it... Because I, too, would have a problem with people lining up and queuing up between where people are parking here and trying to cross over.
No, now that the board points that out, we can definitely direct traffic around the backside. I think that is just kind of safer and makes more sense for both pedestrians and for the drive-through traffic.
How would you do that?
Again, using the painting, and directional arrows and signage. Yeah.
Adequate space to do that with taking into consideration the service station location?
Yes, I believe that there's enough there's not enough for 2-way traffic right there, but between the property line and that curbing, there is enough space for a single traffic lane.
And that is the current direction the traffic goes.
Yeah, once you kind of steer them that way, it's a no-brainer, but if you can get them more flowing away from the actual parking close to the building where the congestion is, then that would be preferred.
Yeah.
So I know Clay had brought up some request that we discuss some of the issues around the trash can relocation. Hey, Chief, pull it up here a second. So regarding that area, he brought up about the matching the building or the surrounding area. What is the plan for the new crash area?
Typically, I mean, these details will be submitted with the building permit submittal, but they like to side and color the trash enclosure to match. So if there's a roof on that, the metal roof will match. If there's not and it's open, then the siding and the wainscot will match the building.
Good.
Hey, while we're on that one, I'm gonna, unless you have opposition to this, I'm gonna add a condition that Gladstone Disposal approve this new design, just to make sure they've got room to get their equipment in and out. It looks fine, but...
Just out of curiosity, why didn't you submit a drawing on the trash enclosure? Physical location, so you can kind of get a perspective on what you're trying to drive around, because when the vehicles park to get gas, and other folks that are getting gas go out and around, then they're 2 vehicles wide coming towards where we're trying to redirect traffic. And if somebody comes in there with, and a lot of people come in there with their big motor homes, and it blocks that traffic there, and then looks like your trash enclosure opens out to that driveway. And that, again, you think about it, concerned with it, without an elevation of that building, I mean, I'm assuming it's not over about, 8 feet high or so, over 10 feet, but...
Yeah, oh no, they're usually just like 6 feet high. You know, it's just screening for, you know, the trash cans. And those doors are chain bolted, you know, in place, and so they're only ever opened up when the guys are there unloading, you know, dumpsters and things like that. So it's usually just a temporary situation when they're opened.
Any other questions?
Anything else?
Can I ask a question, just out of curiosity? I don't know McDonald's business model, but I'm assuming these are franchises? Is that,
Yes.
Okay. And I'm also assuming this is not the first McDonald's on Earth to get this treatment. Is this the new corporate?
Yeah, this is pretty standard. Whenever, you know, a McDonald's hits a certain volume, you know, usually with traffic, they like to split it into 2 lanes, you know, because it's better for stacking. It keeps cars out of the pedestrian and parking areas. So it's pretty standard.
How about for the new siding? Is that some change at the from above? That's okay.
Yes.
Curious.
You've already done some in the area that have been have this new siding on them. I've seen them. They're very clean looking. They're very nice looking, actually. Just like an update.
Yeah. Some buildings need it. This one, the brick and the siding's in pretty good condition, but they'd still like to update it. If they're going through and updating the site, they figure they'd like to update the look as well.
All right. There's nothing further in this portion. We'd like to call for public testimony at this point. Now is the time for public testimony. Please approach the podium and state your name and address. We will first hear testimony from proponents, that is, from people who support the application. Then we will hear testimony from opponents. And is there anybody that's in support of the application that would like to testify? Seeing none. Anybody in opposition who would like to testify about this application? And seeing none, there's no rebuttal. Is there anything that we'd like to discuss further? Comments?
Just a general question, and it's been a week or so since I was there, but the only other thing that tends to become an issue when you start to increase the traffic is you're trying to keep people from running into your building. And I don't know what we've got for posts and things there. I fortunately have never hit one, but you know, will anything change there in terms of just the protection of you're putting a lot of money in the building and you need to protect it.
Luckily I'm in the same camp and I haven't yet hit one, but typically there's bollards, that are just standard 3-foot high, concrete posts, and if those aren't currently existing, sometimes they are, but if they aren't, we'll install those kind of a 6-inch corner from the building, just to avoid anyone from nicking that edge. And that'll be included with the building permit, submittal, to make sure that those are all structurally sound and everything.
So I would like to point out that if somebody is sticking out a little bit in that nearer driveway, then somebody looping around that S-curve there is more likely to hit them. And as much as I like to keep landscaping, I'm wondering if that little bulge of landscaping there is making it more likely for a collision between the neighboring vehicle.
Yeah. That's something that we can definitely reduce if that's a concern. Usually, these sorts of things are included, to make sure we hit a certain landscaping number. But this site's already, easily met its percentages. So just, if we're going to be redirecting traffic around, the trash, I definitely think that that's something that we can update for a building permit submittal.
Because I would think if they're going to be swinging towards that traffic and then swinging the opposite direction, they're going to be more likely to hit it. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
No, that makes
Malachi,
sense.
can I ask where you're talking about? Are you up above
The entrance
trash
to the new
enclosure?
driveway?
Where the bulge is.
Yeah, the bulge on the left side down there.
Okay.
If there's cars backed up in the other lane, then the cars going into the far lane are more likely to hit them.
Well, they're pretty tight on landscaping.
I know, that's why, yeah, so,
And these people know what they're doing, McDonald's. They've done a few of these, and I think I had our traffic engineers look at this real quick just to make sure from a traffic safety standpoint everything would work, and they're fine with it.
you're not concerned?
Because the speeds are, like 1 or 2 miles, and yes, it's a very low speed, slow motion kind of thing, but you could widen it out and make it bigger.
Yeah, I mean, my only concern was, we were talking about the traffic, is just, if they're swinging one direction and then the other, depending on what vehicle they're driving.
That makes sense.
But, maybe something to look at. Like you said, you're going to have building permits and everything when you're doing all this, but I would at least look at that to see whether you can reduce the risk of collision.
Yeah, no, definitely, that's a good suggestion.
Okay. If there's no further testimony, I will entertain a motion to either close the public hearing or continue it to a date certain. What is the pleasure of the commission?
This Commissioner Poole, I make a motion that we close the hearing.
This is Malachi, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none opposed, the motion to close the hearing passes.
Well, no, that was to close the hearing.
Sorry?
That was to close the hearing.
Right.
Okay.
Close the hearing. What is the pleasure of the commission?
I'm in favor of it. It's a very minor change. The siding looks good. Other than, a couple of things that we brought up, I think that overall it's an improvement to what we have now, so.
Right, and my concerns were strictly safety. I think the aesthetics of this is going to be a step up, and if you can get more people through there and get them fed faster, they're going to love you.
Any thoughts?
I'm good. Will I take a vote?
Well, I agree, it's going to look better, and the only thing, as long as it's understood that it would be better for traffic to go around and not cut through there and cause more traffic where people would be walking across.
So you want to add
I would suggest we just add a condition that some stripage and signage, whatever's appropriate to encourage that, would be the only thing we would probably need to add.
So you look at that plan review, I guess. Yeah, so he's gonna be our eyes and ears.
Perfect.
And you've added the thing for the Gladstone disposal, right?
For the what?
For the disposal company.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, if you like, I can read what changes I've made to the conditions real quick. Just condition 1, we had the phrase Malachi reminded me of prior to expiration. Then we're adding 2 conditions. on-site directional signage and markings relative to drive-through as discussed, to increase on-site queuing and vehicle storage. I can reword that, but I think I was just doing it the way we're doing it. Then Gladstone disposal, to submit a letter to file indicating new location facility will work. Anything else?
I don't think we need to modify anything because they have to go past plan review and he's got it. So I think we can approve it the way it is.
I wanted to ask Mr. Glasgow a question. You said you had the traffic safety people look at it, traffic engineers, excuse me. I just, very casual observance in using either the gas station or the McDonald's. I've noticed that the egress, the traffic coming out of the drive-through, they use the same entrance as the people going in. I'm assuming that's been looked at. And with doubling the output, is still going to leave that to be adequate?
Well, I don't think you're necessarily doubling the output by adding a drive-through lane. I think this is more a reaction to what's happening already, at least to some extent. So there's that. And actually, the traffic engineers, if I remember, I used a factor of 1.18, so it was only increasing less than 0.2. The driveway is not ideal, either location or width, but it's all you're going to get there because of other issues with that little piece of road and other businesses in the area. It wouldn't be safe to widen it because that would increase speeds both in and out.
Now, one of the things that would help is I noticed that a lot of pickups, other trucks, park right where you turn out, and that's where the issue is. Is there any way to restrict at least the first number of feet there?
Well, that's a city street, and whether or not they would be willing to post that no parking would be up to the city.
Huh? Traffic safety people. Somebody want to bring that to their attention?
Well, I'm from coming in and out of there, it's a tight U-turn you have to make out of the driveway. It's just always been that way. And and I understand it's not going to make any more. It's not going to make two lanes because it's still one car by the time they come and pick up their food and turn out. It's always going to be that tight U-turn no matter what happens. And apparently it's adequate now, or it wouldn't have been.
Well, it isn't. No, it's become what it is now. It isn't ideal.
No, but it can't be.
Right. There's no easy fix, and I frankly, and the traffic geeks I talk to, don't think it needs to be fixed. It isn't. There's a lot more dangerous situations in Gladstone traffic-wise than that driveway. How's that?
But your reference was to that first parking spot on Berkeley.
Yeah, basically because it's a visual issue. When you turn out, and when people turn out, and someone with a big truck or something's parked right there, you can't see, and other people are cutting the corner to drive in. Right. That was the only thing I was saying, if we could restrict it back, but you're saying that goes before the transportation.
Well, that isn't up to me, although the person that it may be up to is sitting in the audience.
Well, that's what I was asking, who is that person?
Yeah, I think it'd be Mr. Wynot, so he probably has an opinion on this.
And it really wouldn't be tied to this application?
Not at all.
No.
It's just an observation, sorry.
Anybody want to make a motion?
This is Malachi. I will make a motion that we accept the file number Z0112-17-D with the changes as read by Clay.
This is Libby Wentz. I second that.
Call the roll.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Commissioner Malachi.
Yes.
Commissioner Pat Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Wentz.
Yes.
Commissioner Poole.
Yes.
Chairperson Roulette.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very good.
Thank you, Commission.
You're free to leave. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Question: how soon do you think it'll be before they get started? Just kind of a rough idea.
This has been accepted. We'll submit to the building, permitting department. So that usually takes a couple of months,
Right.
ballparking some numbers, and then if not soon after that, they bid it out. So we could start seeing construction come, late summertime, if I'm being optimistic. So yeah.
Good.
All right. The next item on the agenda is public hearing Z0124-17-M. Partition to divide property into 3 parcels one for the existing residential use, the other two for future single-family residential use at 18225 Portland Avenue at Glen Echo. Judith, thank you. Sensek. What you said. The public hearing is now open for the purpose of considering the above item that I just mentioned. The procedure we'd like to follow tonight is Planning Department report, applicant testimony, proponent testimony, opponent testimony, applicant rebuttal, decision to continue or close the hearing, Planning Commission discussion and decision. Now, does any member wish to disqualify himself or herself for any personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight? Or does any commission member wish to report any significant ex parte or pre-hearing contacts? Please indicate if you visited this site in connection with this application.
Yep. Dennis McCarty. I visited the site twice, looked it over from both Glen Echo and from Portland.
Mr. Malachi, I did not get a chance to visit this site.
Randy Roulette, I did drive by and visually look at the site. I did not walk it.
I too looked at it from a couple of locations. This is Commissioner Poole.
Libby went, and I actually didn't drive by it, but I went online and looked at those wonderful things to get an idea what it looked like.
Good girl.
Pat Smith and I did not go by and visit it.
Is there any member of the audience wish to challenge the right of any commission member to hear this matter? Is there any member of the audience who wishes to question the jurisdiction of this body on behalf of the City Council in this matter? Seeing none. Oregon land use law requires that all issues be raised if the issues are to be appealed. Failure to raise the issues at this hearing may invalidate their further appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals, LUBA. Any party has the right to request a continuance to this hearing, or in the alternative to have the record left open for 7 days. Failure to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the Commission to respond to this issue will preclude an action for damages in circuit court. If you're going to testify, please try to address the applicable criteria. Will the staff please present the report?
Okay, this is a fairly straightforward application. It's residential property on Portland Avenue, just up the road a piece there on at Glen Echo. It's an odd-shaped piece, and if you've looked at the map, you see it's got frontage up here on Portland and down here on Glen Echo, but not at the corner. It kind of steps down, and that's the result of a couple of land divisions over the years, one of which we need to clarify through this process, through platting of this, if you happen to approve this. So the property is owned R72, single-family residential, 7,200 square foot minimum lot size. Plan designation is the same. This is a residential property. It's got a house on it. It's got an outbuilding. It's acre and a third. It's oversized. This proposal involves dividing this property into 3 parcels, 1 for the existing house and 2 new vacant parcels, ultimately to each have a house on them. This part of Gladstone is generally residential in nature. As you come south down Portland Avenue, you get into the little industrial clump there, including where Public Works is, on the west side of the road, and on the other side you ultimately get to the high school. And you've all been to the property, so you know where it is. I went through the applicable criteria, dealing with vehicular and pedestrian circulation, lot design, impervious surface, the Portland Avenue frontage, which is where the current driveway is for the house. That's all improved. You got curb, sidewalks, the whole 9 yards. The Glen Echo frontage is not improved, and we're suggesting through this, if you approve this application, to make as a condition that they do full improvements there along Glen Echo. Glen Echo is identified as a bikeway by your comprehensive plan, and we need to finish it as we go in segments like this, and we'll eventually get it built. Interestingly or not, Portland Avenue, at least north of Glen Echo, is not considered a bikeway on your bike and pedestrian plan, so it doesn't need to be marked. On the south side of Glen Echo, it is. One item, and I'm glad Ashley's here because I wanted her opinion on this, was under my finding H on page 4. It's the last finding, design standards for land divisions. Gladstone code requires that all parcels, particularly new ones, when you're creating them, have at least 20 feet of frontage on a street, on a road, other than an alley. The applicant proposes here to provide that frontage via an easement, a 20-foot wide easement to serve what would be the middle property, if you will. It's not ownership, it's not actual frontage per a definition that is elsewhere in the code. Now, we've done this before. We did it most recently up on Orme. Not sure, Sarah Pools, a couple of you were on. And they provided that 20 feet by an easement rather than actual deeded ownership out to the front. So that was just one design standard that I hoped we could discuss. I mentioned the full improvements along the Glen Echo frontage just because we need to get that done. Also, and you may have noticed this depending on when you were out there, but the property gets really sloshy to the west and north. There's a significant drainage way, subsurface mostly, but in the last couple of months it's really wet, and it also tilts to the north and west. It's not identified as a jurisdictional wetland, but it moves into one as you head further that way. The issue in this case is going to be surface water. The new impervious surface created by rooftop driveway, that kind of thing, is going to create need for some drainage improvements there. Also, any frontage improvements along Glen Echo may be a little bit more of a challenge because of the way the water goes and the way things tilt. But that's just kind of a side note when I was out there. Otherwise, do you have any questions? I try to be fairly complete in these staff reports, so when you don't have any questions, I'm feeling pretty good.
You actually have already addressed mine, and the concern I have, of course, is dealing with the runoff.
Yeah.
And how are we going to direct it, and we're already having problems with the wetland down there, which of course is not their doing, but
well, but this is part of that wetland
we're going
complex.
to be affecting it, and
right.
And that really it's the water that is the only thing I see as being problematic here.
Well, as far as the
surface water.
Lovely map here. As far as this, okay, you've got the existing driveway out here into Portland. On the south side, Glen Echo, proposed house. They're going to bring a driveway off of Glen Echo because that's a lower classification street. They don't get a new driveway out Portland. They have to bring it up here. By doing it this way by easement, they're making it a single driveway, which reduces, ultimately how much additional impervious surface you're going to be throwing at that property. So that's why I thought this is, this is a reasonable idea compared to having frontage out here and then a separate driveway for this one. It just physically works better. Whether or not we can fit it into your code is the question.
Well, writing on his question, that was one of the questions I called earlier. We didn't hook up, but that was one of the questions I had, is where the impervious driveway surface is coming in the easement. To his question, and also to mine, is how much more surface than here is going to be paved?
Well, yeah, it needs to be a 20-foot wide strip, regardless as far as surfacing. And this, we had a pre-application conference with these folks back in February sometime. Jim was there. The fire district was not represented. The actual width that we need and what kind of turnaround, if any, that's going to be a condition that comes through Mike Funk. And we don't have that yet. What we're trying to avoid with a driveway of this length, we're trying to avoid the need to take any fire equipment onto the property. We're hoping that with a new fire hydrant down here, parking an engine, you can get hose to every part of that middle building, because that would free up a lot of the construction requirements otherwise, because those are heavy pieces of equipment.
The driveway is 125 feet long, right?
Right, but
and
they've got
hose is 150.
Well, no, they've got 190. But it depends literally on where the hydrant is, and so if they add a hydrant right there at that new driveway, between that and the Portland Avenue frontage, it may work, but we just don't have, we don't quite have that detail yet. We don't need it for this meeting, but we don't quite have it yet.
So this is right here, the easement,
Yeah.
right here.
Right, this is one of the new parcels. This little one here, and then we want to cross it with an easement to get into this one.
How is this different than what we've done before?
Well, it isn't, but what we've done before may not be proper. And I probably shouldn't be saying that on the mic. So, yeah.
Actually, my question was still, on the property, you're showing the easement here, which I understand that length, and that's gonna be a driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And over on the front end, by Title 17, it limits the number of, amount of impervious surface from the house that's down on that Glen Echo, coming out to the street. So you're creating surface for, that where water can't soak in.
Right, we're gonna put sidewalks in there, curbs, we're gonna
Right,
widen the street.
but I'm saying
yeah.
when you go back in here, I don't see anything back in here that tells me how much of that's gonna be paved or...
Oh, and we're not, that was my wandering discussion on the fire department. Ultimately, that's what it'll depend on, whether or not we need to do a hammerhead to turn equipment around, and that also will say how wide it needs to be surfaced,
Yeah, that
actually
was my
paved.
question.
Yeah.
You can ask the language of the code.
Can we ask some questions
We
of
can do
Jim,
that.
You can ask
as
the
far as the
language.
staff report?
Yep.
I won't look it up on my phone then.
Jim, can we get you to come up for a minute?
Okay, here it is right here.
Can you talk about the driveway portion in relation to the stormwater?
What about it? I mean, it'll have to meet our code and our new design standards, and we're just not there yet. We don't have the math to figure it out.
Okay.
So that's it. I think what we're saying, what he's recommending is it needs to meet that as
Okay.
part of what you guys are doing.
But in terms of this 20-foot area, especially on the Glen Echo entrance,
Mhm.
can you speak to what the stormwater situation is on that part of the road? Do you know?
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
I've been here just a little over a year,
Is
but
is it on our map?
what part of it? Our storm system would be on that map.
But not anything on the...
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
How do you deal with the drainage in that area now? Or, I mean, from what you've seen, I realize...
There's a ditch that it's running in.
Okay,
So
that's
obviously, if they're going to put in curb and stuff, there's going to be pipe there. So it'll just move down where it's coming,
Where gravity
where
sends
it's open. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's downhill from there,
Yes.
down Glen Echo.
Yeah.
So I have another question,
Mhm.
Clay. Is this then, will it become defined as an alleyway, or is it a driveway, or what is it?
Well, it's just literally just a driveway that happens to serve two properties.
Because in the Title 17, they define
91,
the difference
78,
between them.
Right, right.
So I want to make sure.
No, it's a
There's
driveway for,
restrictions.
right, it's a driveway for purposes of the rest of the code. So we
Right,
don't have to
and
worry
so
about
we
a
have
corner lot or
We have
anything.
addresses on Glen Echo. So the front is frontage and is Glen Echo.
Mhm.
It's literally for driving
Suppose
in and
the
out.
water's running
And
that
does it
way.
run with the land?
Well, it hasn't been created yet, but I'm assuming it would as just surface.
Anything else for staff? Is the applicant or is representative present? You wish to add anything to the staff report?
Well, my name is Steve Gleason. I'm the present owner of 18225 Portland Avenue.
Okay, would
This
you
is
please
Judith.
come and
Okay.
give your name and address for the record? And we can ask you some questions.
My name is Steve Gleason, 18225 Portland Avenue. And this is Judith Senensack.
And mine is 12620 Highfield Court in Oregon City.
Go ahead, and anything you want to add to the staff report, be appreciated.
Well, I think that we've pretty much covered it. We have talked previously with the fire marshal, not in regards to this sale here. I had a previous sale prior to Judy's, and at that time, the fire marshal, Mr. Funk, did come out and walk the property. And at the time when he walked the property, there is a fire hydrant that's across the road at Glen Echo, right there. And he walked the property, and he said at that time that there'd be no reason to have a turnaround up there. He
So
says
the
whole
hydrant is actually right across Glen Echo?
Right, across Glen Echo in front of those, they're not duplexes, but they're townhouses.
Where's that in relation to, say, the driveway?
It's probably maybe 20 years, probably further south, going towards the wetlands there.
So down the hill a little
Yeah.
bit, okay.
Just down a little bit.
And when the time comes,
It would be
the
down
fire
this
marshal will revisit it. And,
Yes,
and
he'll have to revisit it,
Sure.
as Clay said, that, you know, he didn't get out there this time to take a look at it. But I'm just speaking from a previous walk that he had done. And then a question that I don't know whether or not Judy has asked this of Clay or not, but I know that as we're doing the road improvements along Glen Echo that's being requested, you know, would the driveway have to actually be paved all the way up? Couldn't we leave it gravel after a certain point? If the fire trucks do not have to come on, who's to say that if we're having trouble with the impervious amount of material for runoff, is there a reason why the driveway just couldn't stay gravel?
Well, Steve, 'cause I mean, a lot of times common sense doesn't fit into zoning ordinances. If this was unincorporated Clackamas County within the urban area, I would be able to say yes. However, this is Gladstone, and it does require driveways to be hard surfaced. And then that creates an issue, well, that creates a need then to deal with runoff.
Right.
So I guess short answer is no, you can't gravel it.
Okay. Well, to let you know also, she's already contacted a civil engineer, and he's been out at the site. And he is...
Now, what is her, how's she?
I'm buying it.
Oh,
She's
that was-
buying it from you.
Didn't
Yeah.
get that, it's good to know.
She asked me, that's all right, she
the
asked
middle
me to do
property,
most of the
right?
talking, so-
and that's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
You're buying the middle one.
I'm buying two pieces.
The two pieces.
Oh, okay.
So the civil engineer that she's contracting with has already been to the site in regards to the water retention pond that needs to be built, and he's identified a spot, apparently down close by the road, that would be appropriate.
Can I ask who you're working with on that?
Bruce, no.
Goldson?
Goldson.
Okay, good.
So I think those issues about the water, you know, runoff are gonna be taken care of.
So my biggest concern is the length of hose to get around to the backside of the house. The 20 feet, 125 feet, 92 feet, and essentially up to 80 feet. I'm concerned about whether the hose can get to the back of the house. So I would definitely want to see Mike sign off on any plan.
And also, when Mike was out there, he did point out that the fire hydrant that's up on the Portland Avenue side
That's what I was going to ask.
would also be accessible with enough hose to get across down to the back side of the property as well.
Is that like in front of Glen Echo, that hydrant on the other side of Portland Avenue, or is it more towards those first two lots that are?
It's more towards the front of my house. It's a little bit across the road and just,
Okay.
it's right about there. But that would also be accessible to
Okay.
the property. So he had taken a look at both of them from both sides.
It'll be a lot closer.
That is, I mean, this is a solvable situation, either with a fire hydrant or a turnaround. But hopefully no turnaround. So.
Right.
Questions from the commission?
It
For the staff
is-
report?
I just had a quick question. This seasonally, the water builds up down there in the one corner.
Yes.
And I realize that's not a permanent wetland. Has the wetland actually ever been delineated or marked down there? I mean, do you have a buffer requirement or anything there? I mean, it doesn't look like we're interfering with it, but I just don't want you to run into an issue in the future. And
Are you talking about on the southern side by Glen Echo?
No, I'm referring to the other, the north,
side.
yeah, northwest.
That portion that's going to be staying on my parcel drains to the north.
Right.
That's the southern tip of the wetlands area that goes into
Exactly.
the Birdsong Way.
Right.
That in there. So that drains in that direction. And then they have an overflow system and a pump there on that side. And then just about from where the building site is, where the barn is located on the property, that all flows down to the south, and that
Yeah,
goes
you
down
could-
near Glen Echo.
With the water being the way it is right now, you can actually see what's going on there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, you can see it very
Quite
well.
evident, yeah.
Yeah, it's been an interesting winter. I'll just
Very
let
much
it go at that.
Hey, Les, just to your question, there's no problem with the buffers. The identified wetlands are far enough away.
I didn't see anything here, so
Yep.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Could we get another summary from Clay as to what conditions you've heard about what needs to be done?
Well, I haven't written anything down. I'm not sure
Okay,
if that's good or bad. Is that,
So
I
we
haven't,
addressed it, though?
I haven't heard anything new. I mean, we're gonna hang on.
get into public testimony now.
Well, and we're going to get Mike Funk's okay ultimately anyway.
Right.
But I'll add that as a condition.
Thank you.
It's already on there as number 3.
Is it? Okay, good.
Now's the time for public testimony. Please approach the podium and state your name and address. We will first hear testimony from proponents, that is, from people who support the application. Then we will hear testimony from opponents. Is there anyone that would like to testify in favor? Hi.
Hi, I'm Katie Ellerby and live in that neighborhood, and I'm not really for it or against it, but I do have a question. I'm wondering, right on the corner of Glen Echo and Portland Avenue, that property on the corner, the Glen Echo is wider, but is that going to be extended so it's going to be, you know, that wide going further west from there, or is that going to stay narrow like it is, or?
I can probably answer that because I've got. And I really wish I had big maps. Here's the intersection, right? And you've got Glen Echo constructed across here. This is a different property. It isn't owned by the Gleason. It's I don't know who owns this, but it's not Steve.
It's on the corner.
Yeah. We're not going to be getting any. There'll be no changes there. We can't request the property owner for this one do off-site improvements. The changes will occur from the start of his property west to the end of his property, and that'll be in the form of any widening that's necessary, sidewalks, and a striped bike path. So I guess the short answer is no. Through this application, there's not going to be any change right up there by the intersection.
Yeah, I wasn't asking about that. I was just worrying about going west from there.
Right, and and those changes will start at the property line, at the Gleason property line, and continue across that frontage, just his property.
But we don't know at this point if it's going to be widened, if the street's going to be widened. I heard some mention about a sidewalk.
Yes, there will be a sidewalk.
Is the street going to be widened? 'Cause that's narrower there, where Gleason's is narrower than where Dave's
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. Well, what'll happen is Steve's engineer is working with Bruce Goldson, who's been around here for a very long time and knows what he's doing. He will submit information from an engineering standpoint to indicate what he thinks needs to happen, and then that'll be reviewed by the city and the county regarding traffic safety. But what'll end up happening is it'll be blended. It's not just suddenly going to be 4 feet wider there and then come back up. It'll be blended, just from a safety and visual standpoint. But until we get the engineering information, we don't know how much it's going to be widened.
Okay. There's recently been like a month and a half or so a bicycle rider who was hit there and injured at that intersection. You know, with all the townhouses, they have a lot of cars in there. People parked. It's just really kind of pretty congested there, and I was just wondering if it was going to be widened so maybe there wouldn't be so much closer to that corner.
Right, and the city wants this to be widened to its full width with sidewalks, bike paths, the whole 9 yards. But this is the way the city gets it, is one property at a time, because that way the private side pays for it rather than the taxpayers. So we can only get this, and it's a pretty small piece of frontage here, but we will get improvements there. And then if that one on the corner ever develops, we'll get it there.
Okay, thank you.
So, ma'am, we still need your address for the record.
Katie Ellerby, 18322 Portland Avenue in Gladstone.
Thank you. Any other people that would like to testify in favor of the application? Then we will hear testimony from opponents. Anybody who wishes to testify in opposition to the application? And now is the time for applicant rebuttal. Does the applicant wish to make any further comments?
I don't know if it's appropriate now. I've already spoken with Clay and Mr. Wynot, but before we close on the matter, when I built my house back in 94, 95, it was required by the city at that time to do the Portland Avenue frontage improvements, the curbs and sidewalks, which were done. During that time span, the county was, or the city, I'm sorry, was negotiating for some, I think that they were state or federal funds. They were going to improve Glen Echo all the way down, including putting some paths out into the wetlands area out there. And that never transpired, but part of my building requirement at that time, if I may,
Yes.
I'd like your assistance. I was directed to you by Clay and Mr. Wynot. I had actually given to the city money for road improvements on Glen Echo. And I would just like your help in resolving the issue that, you know, the money was given and the improvements were never complete. So in the discussion, I'd like, you know, your direction on how to go with coming to a resolution about the money that's already been paid for some of that work.
I think we've heard some other comments about this before recently.
And I think what'll need to happen on this, Steve, is that the city, as in through the city manager's office, likely with help from council, will need to decide on how to handle this. This is basically a fee in lieu of, but you didn't have a fee in lieu of process. So money was paid with the expectation that it was going to be used as part, to pay the expenses on a project. That project never occurred. That money is laying around in escrow somewhere, or you guys spend it on donuts and beer or something. I don't know where it went. But Mr. Gleason is wondering if he can get it back, and that isn't up to you, certainly. But I wanted him to get it on record just so we could get the city thinking about it. That's
So
all.
he needs to speak to specifically who?
I would go to the city administrator first.
Eric,
Swanson? Yeah.
you know Eric Swanson?
I don't, but I can find
So,
him. I'm sorry.
Jackie, we'll talk to you after this meeting to help coordinate that.
Just out of curiosity, you're saying you want the money back, or you want to apply it to the new? I'm just trying to figure out.
We could
It seemed to be easier to resolve if they applied it, if that was appropriate.
Yeah. Although in this case we're going to want construction right away. It isn't like for a later project, which is what that was being paid for. It really was a fee in lieu of type thing. This is what we're doing now is because he needs the money in his wallet so he can pay his contractor to build stuff now.
So I think you've got a direction there, and you'll find out something when you talk to Eric.
Thank you very much.
Hey, while you're near a mic, I was talking with a surveyor. I don't know if it's your surveyor, Mike Rademacher, regarding how that corner thing happened. Now, if this is approved, we're going to get condition 1 being final plat, and it's going to come to resolution anyway. But do you have any clue how that rectangle happened in the corner at Glen Echo and Portland? I can find half of it, but
This one here?
Right.
That was a lot line adjustment, and I have paperwork that I submitted to the city, Jonathan Block.
Oh, Jonathan did it. Okay, never mind. That's why I couldn't find any record of it. Perfect. Okay. Thanks.
All right. So now, if there's no further testimony.
Chair, could I add 1 or 2 things to the conversation? So Clay brought up this issue with the frontage. And so I want to draw your attention to what the code requires, what some of the definitions say, and ways that you can take it. So under 17.64.020 subsection 2, it says a lot shall have a minimum frontage of 20 feet on a street other than an alley. So the definition of frontage means a property abutting on a street. So a property abutting onto a street. Definition of an easement is a grant of a right to use a strip of land for specific purposes. So I agree with Clay that it does not fit directly into the code. However, as Councilor Sickman said when he was in here earlier, it's your objective to interpret the code. And an easement is a type of property interest or a right to use the property. So it would be a permissible interpretation that it is property abutting and could fit into the definition of frontage. However, it is a little bit of a stretch, but according to Clay, it has been so interpreted before.
Do we have any code regarding flag lots specifically?
That's a
Yes, but that's also in 1764 lot design standards. But you still get to the 20-foot minimum width for your flagpole portion of a flag lot, and it's 20 feet of property. Now we've, through staff more so than you, but it's been interpreted to mean, because it makes more sense. It allows for better partition, better lot designs, and that's why we did it with pool. Here, probably the best way to meet that 20-foot actual deeded ownership would be to take that middle lot and put a 20-foot strip out onto Portland Avenue.
Yeah, so if this, instead of being an easement, if this was included as part of that middle lot,
that would make...
Which would make the other one an R5 instead of R7.
Right, and it would make it, frankly, a challenge to develop, because it's narrow and relatively small. Then it's just not a good lot design. If you throw an easement there, instead of taking a 20-foot width out of it, you don't have the setbacks to worry about.
So is there something we should put in the report of our interpretation of the code that supports if we approve this application?
Well, it's certainly on my list of things to change. I want to clarify that in 1764. I think the definition of frontage and easement are okay. I'd just like to change the way we're using the words so we don't get into this again.
So we don't need to mention it? We just...
That's up to your legal counsel here.
I mean, it kind of depends. So, I mean, if that's the direction that you're going, you know, I would put some sort of information on the record to say, you know, this is a permissible easement pursuant to these definitions. But again, you know, it's not a perfect fit. It would have to be your interpretation of the language for this application.
Are we allowed to use a variance as a way to allow it?
No, I do not believe so.
No, you can make adjustments to dimensional standards if this exceeds the percentage that you're allowed.
What kind of language would you recommend we put in there? Could you like
what you did for the most recent one I can think of on Armay Road, under 17.64, the finding there, it goes through yada yada, shall have minimum 20 feet of frontage on street other than alley. The flag lot is shown meets this requirement through the 20-foot easement to Armay Road.
Okay.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah, can we just use that?
Yeah.
Okay, but we're all right.
Any other discussion?
So your main concern with doing it as a proper flag would be the setbacks?
Well, if you made that deeded ownership a 20-foot wide flagpole portion to that middle segment, you would be creating a property line 20 feet in, which would then require another 5 feet of setbacks for side yard. We'd call it a side yard for that front lot. Whereas now you don't need that 5-foot setback because that's not a property line.
Although it does look like it's already beyond that right now, right?
Yeah, but it's not deeded. It's not a side lot line, so there would be no. You could build right up to it now. It just makes the front lot more. It's just a more sensible way to do it. I guess I don't quite know how else to explain it. It provides more opportunity for development.
Right. And the aesthetics are obviously better.
Well, and we also, thought about putting a 20-foot strip out onto Portland to get into that middle one. But we're trying to limit driveways on Portland because that's a higher classification street, so we didn't want a driveway out there. There's room for a 20-foot strip there going out to Portland if you want to design it that way, but I don't think that's the best way to go. And plus, we did it that way, then we couldn't get any frontage improvements on Glen Echo because there would be no benefit of Glen Echo to the applicant, and it wouldn't pass Nolan Dolan and anything else she can come up with. So this just seems to work best.
But it has to say an easement, otherwise this the property on Glen Echo isn't isn't large enough?
Well,
That's not actually true, because
it's large enough.
That
It's
line
just-
could be moved up so that it's rectangular rather than
So that could be moved over there.
I mean, it turns it into a 5,000 square foot lot, 50 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the end of the world. I mean, that's a typical City of Portland sized lot. I'm sorry. God, jeez.
It'd be 73.
Oh, I'm tired.
I mean,
No,
you could
no,
do
no, you can't
73
do
by
it.
125.
Right. You can't do it because this is an R72 zone, not R5.
Right.
So I'm sorry.
But the lot could be, I don't know, could it be moved back there?
You could make it longer and skinny.
Okay.
But why would you do that?
Just to meet the minimum lot size.
Well, yeah,
but if
well,
it's
she said by interpretation, we can allow it, and the thing is, everything's in place, and aesthetically, it looks better. If you're driving, I went over and looked at it a couple of times. Obviously, it's overgrown in some of the areas on the front there, but when you look at this, and if you look at other developments, and it's got the benefit it has is a plus over, just as an example, the negative things it would take to come off of Portland Avenue. There are a lot of downsides coming off Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Putting it this way, and I think that's what you're saying, Clay, is it makes a lot more sense, not only physically for how the property is laid out, but aesthetically when you drive by it and people going in and out. And as the person out here already spoke said, we've got people parking across the street. This gets, if with that driveway there, that easement and everything that's there, they can't park on that side.
Right. Well, and is there going to be a second driveway for the house that's on?
No.
You're saying no, and you're saying yes.
No, they will be the two properties with, the two properties coming off that driveway off Glen Echo will share that driveway.
Will share the driveway. Okay.
Right. So rather than 3 driveways, there's 2.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
That makes even more sense now.
Anything else? If there's no further testimony, I will entertain a motion to either close the public hearing or continue to a date certain. What is the pleasure of the commission?
Are we okay closing it without Mike's input? Since we have the condition that they have to comply with Mike.
Well, Mike has given input. It's just been verbal and it's not in the file. I honestly don't think that's a huge issue, and it's completely doable one of 2 ways.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And frankly, how's he going to get a building permit if the fire marshal says I can't take care of the place?
Well,
I
he
mean,
isn't
so
right.
In a practical world, we don't need any more language, do we?
Well, he isn't going to get the plat recorded. The lots won't be created unless Mike gives me something in writing.
Right.
So yeah.
So I don't think we need any more language.
So I would move that we close the discussion or the hearing.
I'll second.
Public hearing is closed.
So here's where I'm at. I like the idea in general. I have a concern that there is a way to do it that complies with our code, and we're choosing to do it the way that doesn't comply with our code. So I have a concern about that.
So which way do you think complies?
Well, I mean, making an actual flag lot would be in compliance with our code. But making it an easement, it doesn't abut the property. So I have a concern about us not following the code. But I like the idea in general. I'm concerned that the code doesn't match that.
For what's laid out here is what you're saying. Well, I think council will advise that it follows the code.
Well, that we could interpret it.
You can interpret it to, that is your prerogative to interpret the code. I agree that it is a stretch.
So do you have a remedy that you'd like to see, or?
Well, and I think Clay pointed out the problems with making it an actual flag lot. It makes a problem for this other property on the side. And you're saying that in the zone couldn't even be there, right?
No, because it needs to be 7,200 square feet. So.
They could move that line.
They'd have to move that line up in order to do that.
The other lot is 14,000, so it's 2. It's a big lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like the way it's laid out. I just have concerns that it doesn't comply with the code.
Just for whatever it's worth, you would not be setting a precedent.
From my point of view, I've had to, historically had to deal with these situations in Portland earlier time, and had the same situation. And this, while it's a stretch, it's like Clay said, it's not setting a precedence, and I don't personally have an issue with it.
It is on the list to be clarified, again, for whatever that's worth, just because it needs to be to allow for more sensible, flexible creation of land. So.
One of the things I noted in the code is that it requires one off-street parking space per building going in, and as I look at that, it seems like that would be a stretch. Would the does an attached garage carport qualify as a parking space for a house?
Yes.
Okay. And they would be built that way?
Well, we don't have that yet, but they could either provide it in a garage, carport, driveway, however they want to do it. That the small piece up front is probably going to be a garage, but they could do it on the side of the house, one side or the other. But yes, they do need to provide a space at least.
But then if it was up front, would there be another driveway that's coming off of Glen Echo? That's
No. There'll be a little short driveway coming off the driveway coming off Glen Echo. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes it's confusing because the street is the front, even if you've got a building in there that's lengthwise, so to speak. So when you look at it, first you have to stop and think, now, the front's always the street, right?
Well, not always, I don't think.
Well, for purpose of setbacks,
That's
the
what I mean
street
for the
always represents a front yard. Your code describes it sometimes as a street side, but it has the same setback as a front yard.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I had the same concerns just now like I did with it, being used for two different things, being used to meet the size of the lot. But I understand what you're saying about if not having, because I thought too, why not just put it off Portland? So I understand that too, why that is not a good idea. I think aesthetically it would look fine, and with having one driveway there.
So if it helps, again, I don't think that there's a clear, easy answer to this, but in looking at some of the definitions in your code, unfortunately, property is not defined by the code. However, looking at property line adjustment, it means the relocation of a common property line between two abutting lots of record. So when we're talking about lots of record, we're using a different term. So if you're following me, there's no clear indication in the code that property means, our colloquial definition of owning the land outright. Again, a permissible but stretchy definition would be a property interest. And neither one of those is defined by your code, so it's within your purview.
So as long as we're not breaking any, huge laws or setting any big precedents, I like the plan personally. I think it looks to me like something I would do if I was doing it. And we don't want to set any precedents or anything, but if we can interpret the code to allow this, I would vote in favor of that. Anything further? Does anybody want to make a motion?
I think somebody else should make it.
Do we use the file number?
Yeah.
So, Dennis McCarty, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the application with the conditions as laid out by Clay, and all the construction requirements and property requirements for the property at described as, well, actually it's the property address is yours, is that correct at this point? 18225 Portland Avenue, and the adjacent Glen Echo Avenue that's currently zoned for R7.2, and that the adjustments to the property be accepted. Did I get that right?
So this gets approved tonight then, right?
Just as a point of fact here, that what you're doing when it's a partition, you would be granting preliminary approval. Final approval comes at time of submittal of the plat. Land divisions are kind of funny that way. You're kind of saying the idea is good. We approve the idea.
Okay.
Yep.
It doesn't have to go to city council?
No.
Okay.
No.
Second?
This is Commissioner Poole. I'll second the motion.
So call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner McCarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Malachi?
No, and only because I think there are ways it could meet the spirit of the code, and currently it does not.
Commissioner Pat Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Wentz?
Yes.
Commissioner Poole?
Yes.
Chairperson Roulette?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And approved. Thank you.
So, Jackie, can you talk with him about meeting up with Eric?
I have the information and I will pass it on to the city administrator, yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, do we need to adjourn?
Well, because if it ever does
we already
go for city or city
Chair,
council, they have.
are we adjourning?
We
Or
have
anything else?
Business from the commission, and then we'll adjourn.
I don't have
Anybody?
I have a question for the future. Historically, when the planning commission makes a decision, the value or the cost of the house, we don't get involved in that. We're not here to make use financial considerations really for our general decisions. But more and more I'm hearing a motivation for increasing density is that we have a housing shortage or we need affordable housing, and I find myself weighing money or, that side of it. It comes into decisions more, and in the future I'd just like a little clarity about that, because it's becoming more and more of an issue about people are using the economy, probably rightly so, in these decisions, and I'm just a little gray about it.
Well, the Portland metro area is becoming just insanely gentrified everywhere.
Right.
Costs are going up everywhere. Nobody's putting up huts. If you're worried about low-income housing, whatever that may be, and it is defined, the Federal Fair Housing Act is fairly strong as far as what you can or rather cannot consider. We're creating residential lots here. The actual residences on there, as long as they meet building code, is allowed. You can't put some kind of upper or lower threshold value on them. That simply wouldn't be allowed.
Right, and if I can interject, Clay, I'm really not asking about their application. I was saying a future question where we're going to change zoning, and we're going and in a zone change, we're now hearing that there's more financial considerations or financial benefit, and so obviously I'm not referring to this application. I'm just thinking about some things I've seen, and we find ourselves hearing, well, look, we can put more houses in here, we're going to, it's going to be better, more affordable. If I put more houses in, they're less money. So we're hearing financial reasons to make decisions on changing zoning.
What was the one you did up on, was that in Glen Echo? Or no, wait, what road, Gloucester? Which one was it?
The one that's going in next to that used to be the church.
The church.
On Glen Echo.
Yeah.
Or
Church of God.
The new street that's coming through.
Right. And we processed that, and it was appealed, if I remember right. Then it came back to you.
And that one had a lot of metro requirements.
Right, but you've got the criteria for zone change. So I mean anybody can apply for a zone change.
Right.
Money is not a consideration. What
prove that, I think.
Right.
With a larger lot.
That was before we got our minutes fixed.
Now, one thing we have at the county, and actually Molalla has it now too, is you can increase density in an existing zone with the use of of low-income housing. You can actually get more lots if you put in affordable housing. But I've never seen it go the other way. But as far as a zone change in an R7-2, like if they wanted to go to R5, maybe to squeeze out another lot, you've got the criteria for approval. And no, the type of house isn't one of the criteria. But I
2,500 square foot lots.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think the Metro does have density requirements, and that we have a certain criteria we have to meet by a certain time frame or something.
Oh yeah. Oh right. Big Brother wants you to have a certain number of bodies, and
I'm talking to David in the past. My understanding was that even though the city may not want to necessarily reach that density requirement, we have certain obligations.
You are correct. Metro has purview over many things, and to some extent, large extent, density is one of them. And Gladstone has historically been low, for instance, on multifamily. You're constantly getting pressure from Metro to up that. You've helped by approving the Stone Gate or Stonehenge or whatever that one is up on Oatfield. But you're just about out of multifamily land now. You've got the last big piece is coming before you either next month or the following month, and then you're out. And then you have to start thinking about rezoning areas for multifamily because you have to provide your share of the urban area's apartments.
What happens if we don't?
Cut funding.
That's a little bit more of a complicated question. So, I mean, first of all, for this commission, you have to consider the application that's in front of you. So you have to have zoning that meets, when you approve your comp plan, it goes up, to the state oversight boards, and they are the ones that look at your, 10 and 20-year plan and make sure that you are complying. And then as the applications come in, you have to evaluate them based on the criteria in your code, as Clay was saying. So Commissioner Poole, what I think you were asking is when you do your staff reports, if there could be more information in the staff reports regarding whether or not this meets low-income housing, or...
Let me clarify, because I think the way I presented it may have gotten deeper than I intended. A developer shows up here. We've got a piece of property. It's zoned R7. Mm-hmm. And the position from the applicant is, well, if I build more houses, they'll be priced lower. If I build more houses, I'm going to save more turf. It's going to pencil out better. And when we make a decision on a zoning change, it really shouldn't necessarily involve the value of what they're going to build. And I'm hearing that more and more, and I understand why, and it's totally practical, but I'm curious, do we start to wander more into that swamp, so to speak, or do we, because I don't think we're supposed to be saying, well, I would prefer more affordable housing in Gladstone in the $285,000 or $300,000 range, and the developer can do that by putting in more houses and increasing density, and they're using that as a justification or as an argument to do so. And I'm just curious how much weight that should be given, and if any. And it's not a question that I necessarily think we need to answer tonight. I see more of it, and I'm thinking down the road.
And to clarify, I mean, we've had developers come before us where part of their criteria that they're saying that they meet is they're meeting affordable housing criteria. Right. Mm-hmm. And then we have to make a decision about whether or not they're actually meeting affordable housing criteria.
And I'm referring obviously to residential, not multifamily.
And so, if a house is $500,000, do we consider the price of that house in determining if it's affordable housing? Right? Because that's something that actually did happen.
Yeah. And so then I would address some of this to Clay, but, again, when you're making your decisions, as you all know, very, very well, you have to make the decisions on what's in the code. So, okay. Does that speak to any of the criteria already in there, or do you need to revise your code to reflect?
Well, I think what we came to was that the criteria was unclear about what constituted affordable.
Well, that's partially because the statement itself, the criteria, if you will, comes out of the comprehensive plan, and it says shall afford housing of all types or of all ranges or something, and it's just a broad comp plan statement that was acknowledged back in 1978 when Ashley was still on a trike. Okay, and it's just I'm sorry, that was uncalled for, and I take it back, 'cause I was on a track too. But that, through your zoning code, no, you cannot. You literally cannot.
Right.
That is not an approval criterion or a decision criterion when it comes to zone changes.
Good. I just wanted to make real clear about that.
Any other business?
Thank you.
I'd like to address what you said. I don't know a lot about this program that's coming up, but I know that there are things in the works right now to convert some of the abandoned houses and so on to make them into low income. There's a lot behind the scenes I know nothing about, but I do know there is some effort to, and I think it involves some of the students here and employing them and giving them some opportunity to learn how to work the crafts. But the idea was that the properties would be purchased and used as low-income property, which would help in their individual residences rather than multifamily.
Gladstone High School has built a few houses up on Nelson and around.
Yeah.
That was part of their class, you could take that, and they actually built and
But
sold.
that's back in the works, and there's some money floating around to help that, so I do know that that's out there, and I actually live in one that was done by high school students.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and I've rebuilt it.
And one other point on that, I mean, statewide, what we've been seeing is a lot more use of what's called the needed housing statute. And, I think that's a little bit of the opposite of what you're saying, but essentially what that statute says is that a governing body cannot deny an application for housing based on subjective criteria. And, you can talk about the motivations of why that's in the law. I think one of the more charitable motivations is that it's a way to promote low-income housing. So if somebody comes before you or any other commission and wants to build, apartment complexes, lower-income housing, that you can't deny it based on, livability criteria. You have to deny it based on setbacks and very clear and objective criteria already in your code.
Anything else? Just one quick thing for me is at some point, I'd like the city attorney to explain why the city council and the planning commission are sworn and the other boards and commissions aren't in a future session.
Okay.
Thank you. Are we done? Adjourned.